Going behind the music once more with this highlight from a recent episode of Booked on Rock. Geoff Harkness is back on the show. He's got a book out titled Estranged, Guns N' Roses, and Use Your Illusion. Let's talk about Matt Sorum.
Yeah.
So he had been playing with the Cult.
Yep.
What qualities did he bring that Axl and the band felt that they needed at that moment?
Yeah, it's a good question. He was a professional drummer. He was in a big band. They had just put out Sonic Temple, which was a big hit album that had, some Firewoman, a big hit song. So, and they had been out on tour and toured the world on that album. So Matt Sorum was a professional first and foremost. He could step in and from day one do the job. He wasn't going to be awed by playing in front of big crowds. This wasn't his first rodeo. He could record, he could do it all. So I think they really appreciated that. They had also seen him. Slash and Duff saw him perform with the Cult, went to that concert, were very impressed by him. So he was somebody who I think was kind of on their radar anyway, of like, yeah, this guy could actually step in and do the job. They had played with a few other people. They played with Martin Chambers from the Pretenders, for example, and said, yeah, just it didn't fit. Some people we tried, we couldn't find the right fit. Matt comes in and he's like one of the guys immediately. They could just, not only could he play and do everything, but he could also, sort of hang out and become one of the gang, so to speak. And I think they were looking for something like that too.
How would you describe his sound? I'm trying to, when I listen to him, he's got a massive Bonham-like sound. Also, that's the production, but he was just rock solid, like a machine.
Yeah. I mean, if you hear like Locomotive or something, I think that's a good example of the kind of like, he's really like, he is like a machine or something like that. His feel is very different from Steven Adler, and he's been criticized for that quite a bit. And I think it definitely changed the band's sound. There are some tapes that you can hear of Steven Adler rehearsing with the group on some of these songs, and it's like, wow, it's really pretty amazing sounding, and what could have been. But by the same token, I think that Matt's gave them a more cinematic style that really fit in with what Axl had in mind. I mean, Matt's drumming on November Rain, which I describe in the studio in how Axl came in and worked those parts out with him on November Rain, on Don't Cry, and on Estranged, and said, this is going to be a trilogy. You got to use the same fill on every one of these songs. And I want this symbol here and this to go here. And Axl and Matt very much worked out all the parts to that, in a studio one night. And I think that ultimately he was able to deliver exactly what Axl had in mind. He wanted this grand sort of Elton John, Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me sweeping sound, very cinematic, very large. It's different. It doesn't swing like Steven did. It doesn't have all his little hooks and turnarounds that he's so famous for. But it did give the group, I think, what Axl was looking for. And, I've been listening to these albums for 30 plus years, and I still think the songs hold up. I still think they're great. And I think Matt, you have to give him credit for his work on these albums. If I'm still listening to these songs and still like them, then it can't be like, oh yeah, I'm not sitting there going, oh man, I like these, bud. If only Steven were on this song. It's like, no, these are still great songs. You got to give him credit.
Now it feels right that he's on these tracks, but I'm glad you mentioned the fact that Axl sat down with him and said, these three songs, there's a theme here, a consistency, because I feel like I owe Matt Sorum, Matt, if you're listening to this, I owe you an apology, because a lot of fans were getting on him for, what's up with this same drum fill? Boom, 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 boom.
The Pat Boone, Debbie
boom,
Boone.
boom,
Yeah,
boom,
right.
boom, boom. And
right.
I remember thinking myself, like, come on, man, what's the deal? You can't mix it up, right? And then I read an interview with him. He says, no, Axl wanted that.
Yeah, that he wanted this sort of a theme. And I agree. We all owe Matt Sorum a bit of an apology, because we've all said this, had this critique of him. But I was also, again, part of the process. He went in, they had the songs ready, and he learned a song a day for 30 days. They went into the studio and knocked him out in 3 weeks. And he's got to not only record the parts for 30 new songs, but they got to do it in one take. He can't go back and overdub or fix something. It's got to be a perfect take that he delivers too. So that he was able to learn those songs, go in and record them in 3 weeks in single takes was astonishing to me. I definitely didn't know that, So I feel like a lot of us owe Matt Sorum an apology, or at least, he deserves more credit than he's probably been given over the years.
Listen to the full episode wherever you get your favorite podcasts.